What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering video. And it's time for World Championship 31, capping off an amazing 2025 where we saw Standard getting wrecked multiple times by the Is It decks and various different forms. And then, of course, a modern format that I think actually probably surprised a lot of players and wasn't absolutely dominated by Modern Horizons 3 cards. But it is all leading up to this moment here. Players that have dominated either at the regional championship level, consistently performed well at the Pro Tour level, and even the top 8 competitors from last year's World Championship find themselves in a tournament where there is absolutely no easy matchups. This is going to be a grind all day long as players are going to fight through Avatar Limited as well as the standard constructed format, which we know is pretty fresh off some new bans where we saw VV Ornatier getting banned, Prof's Eidetic Memory, and Screaming Nemesis, where honestly playing a little bit of the format in between all the crazy holidays and stuff like that, Standard looks amazing. On top of that, getting my hands on the Avatar set, I absolutely love it as a limited format. So I think we're in store for a pretty exciting weekend as we crown a new world champion. Will we see someone repeat? Will we see the first ever 3-time champion? Can Kai Buddha turn back the clock and become a world champion yet again? Or are we going to have a new face making their mark on the grandest stage of them all? And we're going to be looking at the viewer guide here today to figure out how you can watch all of the transpire and unfold as we dive into World Championship 31. But before we get into the video and we talk about how you can watch the World Championship and what to expect from the standard and limited metagames, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you get notified of future videos. We're going to try to do a day-by-day recap. We did a whole big grand thing last year where we covered day 1, day 2, and went in depth into the top 8. And so if you want to catch any of those recaps, if you maybe don't have time to watch it, then be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you know when those videos get posted. We also talk a lot about the modern and standard formats as well as we kind of travel through the competitive seasons of Magic the Gathering. And if you want even more content, go ahead and check out the description down below where you can find a link to my Twitch channel as well as my Discord server, the Casual Spikes Podcast YouTube channel. And if for whatever reason you want to make the grind and try to get onto the Pro Tour or just play in a regional championship, then go ahead and check out the sponsor of the channel, Manatraders. Manatraders is a easy service that you can use to rent cards for Magic the Gathering online, so you don't have to pay all that money upfront to get the cards that you want for a specific deck and then worry about if you don't like it or not. With their ability to rent whatever cards and play whatever decks you want, almost whatever you want, that you're able to test out various different decks before you commit to buying anything in paper or even on the digital client. If you use my code in the description down below, you'll get 5% off your monthly subscription. On top of that, too, the longer you're subscribed to them, you end up getting some pretty cool bonuses. You end up getting a cheaper rate on your account as well as some pretty cool reward limit, increasing the limit of cards that you can rent and things like that. So definitely go ahead and check them out. I appreciate Manatraders for being a sponsor of the channel. Now let's go ahead and talk about World Championship 31, as this is the tournament that all these players are trying to qualify for. Of course, you have people like me where I just really want to play on the Pro Tour. And if I ever got a chance to play in the World Championship, that would probably be a dream come true. But there's a small amount of people that ever play and make the Pro Tour, and there's an even smaller number that end up getting to play in the World Championship. There's so much incentive here to perform well. Obviously, there's a ton of money on the line. There's a really sweet trophy, but getting your likeness on a Magic card and just kind of being immortalized as a world champion, or in the early years an invitational champion, is something that again, even that super small number of players that even get to qualify for the World Championship, there's an even smaller amount of them that have their likeness on a Magic the Gathering card that players can actually play with in Standard. It's not some sort of commemorative whatever, this is an actual thing. You are immortalized in the game. And so this is kind of what's on the line for a lot of these players, and you really have to bring your A game, B game, and C game if you even want a chance of making day 2, let alone the top 8, and of course winning the whole thing. Alongside the prestige of World Championships, $1 million in prizes is up for grabs alongside the World Championship 31 trophy. Competitors that finish top 8 will receive invitations to each Pro Tour and the World Championship in the 2025-2026 season. So a lot on the line where you just want to make the top 8 of the World Championship, not only to have a shot at that trophy, but again, a automatic qualifier to all the Pro Tours and all the next year's World Championship. You're basically on the train, and you kind of don't have to sweat if you're going to qualify for a Pro Tour or not and how to prepare for it. You already know that you're going to be there, which is a major prize on its own, and of course all the cash prizes as well. Winner of World Championship 31 will receive a grand prize of $100,000, with all competitors receiving at least $4,000, regardless as you place. So you get a nice $4,000 check just for showing up to the event, and they'll publish it the week of December 1st, 2025, so we already have that breakdown here. Typically, it's like half and half, so it's like $100,000 for first place, $50K for second, and I think like $25,000 and then $10,000 for the quarterfinalists. So definitely a huge amount of prizes. I mean, $1 million in prizes going out. This is an absolutely massive event. It is the biggest event for a reason. It's the World Freaking Championship. The broadcast schedule here, we have 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 4 a.m. JST, which I'm assuming is Japan, but I'm not entirely sure. But day one is going to consist of draft and standard constructed. I believe that these events are usually broken down into 4 and 4 here. So you have day 1 draft, standard constructed, day 2 draft, standard constructed on the 6th, and then you have standard constructed top 8 single elimination, which is going to be a best of 5. All of these standard constructed rounds in day 1 and day 2 are going to be best of 3, with best of 5, the full top 8 being that best of 5 format. World Championship 31 will take place near Seattle in Bellevue, Washington, USA on the 5th through the 7th. This event will not run at MagicCon and will not be open to the public. However, you can stay up to date on all the action of coverage being streamed across all 3 days on twitch.tv/magic and youtube.com/@playmtg. I prefer watching on YouTube because you do get to rewind all that fun stuff, and you don't have to be like a premium member or whatever of YouTube to be able to do that. So that's pretty cool there. We will have the stream start at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time, with 3 rounds of Magic the Gathering Avatar Lifestyle Render Draft, followed by 4 rounds of Standard Construction. So we're actually only getting 7 rounds. I thought typically they do 8 here, but we're going to have 3 rounds of Draft, 4 rounds of Constructed. Kind of makes sense considering they don't typically play 4 rounds of Draft, but you know, this means that out of 14 rounds, you're going to have 6 of those be limited, and oh my goodness, 8 of those being constructed. So it definitely puts a pretty big emphasis on the constructed rounds, because typically a lot of players, they can kind of go like 1-2, like 1-2 one day, 2-1 the other day, and like a 3-3 record. And if they absolutely crush limited, or if they crush standard, then they can find their way into the top 8. Here, you're not really going to have that luxury, because having a 3-3 record in limited, and then, you know, even being, you know, 7-0 or 8-0 is only going to put you at, you know, 11-3, and that's probably not going to be good enough in this sort of field to make the top 8. So definitely a bigger emphasis on winning those limited rounds whenever you can, and at least going 2-1, probably having to have a 3-0 if you want to have a chance at top 8 going into the constructed rounds. On Sunday, December 7th, the stream will start at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, with all 4 quarterfinal matches, followed by the semifinal matches, and concluding with the finals of World Championship 31. The competitors will begin Friday. On Saturday, broadcast begins later in the day, with a feature drafter to follow to their round 1 gameplay. As we continue the broadcast, we'll catch up with the tournament, showing a full feature match from every round and reducing downtime until we are pacing live gameplay on short delay. The Sunday top 8 playoff bracket will begin at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, showing a full quarterfinal match followed by as many games from the other quarterfinal matches as possible, moving on to a full semifinal match as much as the remaining semifinals match, and then complete the finals. This is what I don't typically like about coverage, and I bring this up every single time. I don't like the fact that, you know, before we would play every single individual quarterfinal match, like one after the other, you know, so we could watch the entire match kind of unfold. I wish that there was a way that they could just record the full matches separately, and then they could have those videos put up on YouTube, so then players could actually watch full matches. There's a specific top 8 matchup they wanted to watch, but unfortunately that is not the world we live in. C'est la vie. World Championship 31, the story so far. Over the past year, we've seen stars rise from well-known paths like the Pro Tour, as well as new avenues like the Magic Spotlight Series, which is another way that you qualify for the Pro Tour that could then lead into a World Championship qualification. The season has flung open the gates of competitive Magic, inviting more players into the fold than ever before. From this expanded crop, our World Championship 31 competitors have risen through the ranks and will be eager to prove their skills on a global stage. As we round out the year, players also have their sights on the Player of the Year award, awarded to the competitor with the most Player of the Year points at the conclusion of the season. This award pulls from the results of all 3 Pro Tours of the season in addition to the World Championship. The player who walks away with the title also receives the Kai Bude Player of the Year trophy, a stunning prize named after one of the all-time greats of Magic, arguably one of the greatest Magic players of all time. Our writers will cover the Player of the Year race and World Championship in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out on magic.gg. Here you have the limited archetypes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. We have like Blue-White Flyers, Blue-Black Draw 2, Red-Black Fire Nation Aggro, Earth Rumble Ramp in Gruul colors, the Selesnya colors being allies, Orzhov being Sacrifice, Izzet Combat Lessons, Golgori +1/+1 counters, Boros Go Wide Aggro, and Simic Ramp plus Lessons here, with some like very huge bombs in here. I mean, I played Appa Steadfast in Limited, and that card is an absolute house. It is an incredible beating, and especially if you have other ways just to airbend this and just to kind of keep the loop going, you can kind of put your opponent, like you can tell they're really going through it when you're just making like 4 or 5 allies a turn, and then just being able to leave Appa airbended, so then you can then just flash it in for 2 mana and protect all of your things and make blocks very awkward for your opponent, or make attacking very awkward for your opponent. With 4 brand new mechanics and a bevy of legendary creatures adding texture to the limited format, we have to wait and see what archetypes rise to the top. Because the World Championship has fewer rounds than a Pro Tour, players' performance during the draft rounds will be more important than ever. If you want to make it all the way to Sunday, mastering the new set may be your key to victory. Like going 6-0 in this limited format and then going into Constructed, you could probably have a little bit of a worse showing if you're able to nail these limited rounds here. And this format is so much fun to explore. I absolutely love it. The State of Standard at World Championship 31. 3 standard powerhouses, VV Ornithir, Prof's Eidetic Memory, and Screaming Nemesis were banned on November 10th, and players have been searching for the new best deck in Standard. At both Spotlight Series, Spider-Man events, Izzet Cauldron, and Mono Red Aggro were the top Standard decks by a wide margin. Standard sharp its minds, have just a few weeks to cook up some new options for the Pro Tour. Simic Arboreoid, which is a crazy like +1/+1 counter, like aggro weird deck. Sultai Reanimator, Dimir Ritter just put up solid results in the aforementioned Magic Spotlight Series event, but they were ultimately overshadowed by the winning decks. We may see these decks make a resurgence at World Championship 31, or players may seize the moment and try out a new deck unlike anything we have seen before. Lastly, we have the broadcast team here. We have Maria Bertholdi, Ailey Loney, Corey Baumeister, Mani Devuti, Marshall Sutcliffe, Paul Cheon, Cedric Phillips, and Riley Knight being a part of the broadcast team. This has essentially been the go-to team here, and they absolutely nail it every single format or every single event, including the World Championship, and they're going to be bringing their A game certainly this weekend to the broadcasting booth. A massive event deserves a massive crew of casters throughout the weekend. Our team of experts will be providing coverage and commentary on the action. From draft to standard, this crew will guide you through all the action right up to the final match of the World Championship. Additionally, we'll recap each day of the event right here on magic.gg so you can enjoy the action in any format. Of course, you should totally watch my video also, because we're going to be talking about kind of what we saw on the weekend. When will the World Championship deck list be published? They'll be published on the event page Friday, December 5th at the beginning of round 4 gameplay. But the Avatar, draft deck list will not be published. So you can watch the events on twitch.tv/magic or on youtube.com/@playmtg. And that's essentially what you can find from this article here. I'll have a link in the description down below if you just want it for your own records to kind of look at and explore for yourself. But that's where you can watch it. Now, they did mention a few of the decks in Standard here. The Sultai Reanimator deck we actually did a video on, so if you want to kind of get a little bit more of an in-depth look at it, go ahead and check it out. We also covered the Dimir midrange deck a few weeks ago, which I believe is like mostly untouched. There's been some other decks that have come up and have done pretty well in the format here as of recently. There's another Izzet deck that is kind of following more of the, looks like more of the spells base, maybe going back to the original style of these Izzet decks. Again, Sultai Reanimator is a deck that I think has been really cool. There's some other like niche decks. I've been playing like a Mono Black Sacrifice on Arena, and it's been a lot of fun to just kind of like mess around and play with that deck. The Simic Arboreoid, which is a heck of a tongue twister for me. Also, seems like a deck that is pretty cool. If your opponent just doesn't answer it, you absolutely just snowball out of control, and that might even be an understatement for that deck. So there's definitely some really cool things to keep an eye out on if you're looking to get into the Standard format. The World Championship is definitely a really good place to kind of learn a little bit deeper into maybe a deck that you like playing. We're certainly going to see players bringing Dimir mid-range. We're going to see players bringing in the Simic Oriboid decks. We're going to see players playing these Sultai Reanimator decks. So you'll be able to get a little bit more of an insight on maybe some of the card decisions that they end up making. Of course, in previous World Championships, and I mean like the 2010s era World Championships, we would see these super small, like 20, 24 player like metagames, and they would definitely be heavily skewed, where this is going to give you a good idea of what to play going into the standard RCQ season, where maybe some of the changes they made for a little bit smaller of a metagame is going to lean more on the niche side, where you don't necessarily need to make those changes, but you are able to kind of make some better and more informed decisions on maybe what cards that you can kind of flex out if you're not really high on them, or whatever the case may be. You're going to be watching some of the best players in the world over the last year, and even some players that have been some of the best players in the world over the past decade plus, playing in a tournament where they're fighting for glory and a ton of cash. So I'm super excited for this weekend. I cannot wait to watch a super exciting limited format followed up by a brand new standard format that seems to be in a lot healthier of a spot than it had been over the middle of this year. I really shouldn't say over the course of the whole year, because the beginning of 2025 was actually kind of sweet, and then we've just kind of slowly devolved into degeneracy. So be sure to tune in for the World Championship. Again, if you're subscribed to this channel here, as we're going to be recapping day 1, day 2, and the top 8 as best as we can. So definitely don't want to miss any of that if you aren't able to actually watch the World Championship, or if you just want to hear me talk about Wizard cardboard squares. I mean, I absolutely love doing it. That's why I try to post the videos that I can and do what I do on this channel. So definitely be sure to subscribe if you want to kind of support us in our endeavor here. But, that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoy it, and I hope to see you all in the next one.